I'm excited for the movie, but also I'm trying to fully wring my hands around the algorithm's neck and force it to give me views. One of the stranger parts about creating art on YouTube is balancing your desire to make something creative or original with your desire to get some views, damn it. I have no shame about it. I want you to see me make stuff. Nothing wrong with that. It's in every artist's bones. In the past, I have tried to time the release of certain project videos with the release of a corresponding TV show, video game, movie drop, something like that. But I've never actually gone through with it successfully, or a lot of times I would have started and never completed it. For example, this Spider-Man, I started a long time ago in order to drop with the release of the second Spider-Man PS4 video game. The reason I would never go through with it is because it just didn't feel right. It kind of sucked the joy out of creating things for me. And if I know anything, it's how to ruin things for myself, because I've done it so damn much. So this time, knowing Deadpool 3 was just on the horizon and we were going to get served some delicious Hugh Jackman Wolverine, I thought I would once again try to shamelessly capitalize on the attention. Almost 2 months ago, I had this idea for a scene between Deadpool and Wolverine, and it was the perfect kind of in between. I wasn't trying to just get views, and I also wasn't just doing what I want to do. It was right in the middle where I thought I could capitalize on the divine timing of this movie coming out and me having finally enough time to make a big project, and I happened to want to do that. The stars aligned, and I had this idea for a scene where Wolverine had found Deadpool taking a dump in a public toilet, and he's suspending him in the air through the chest with his claws, and Deadpool has been caught with his pants down literally, and he's covering himself with a magazine that would have been something stupid like the magazine cover would have been Wolverine in a bikini or something like really dumb. And I wanted it to feel like a grimy, disgusting public bathroom, and I wanted it to feel like Wolverine had interrupted Deadpool. It was gonna be great. So since Wolverine was gonna be the base of the sculpture, the only thing touching the ground, I was gonna make him first. So I just made an armature, and something I wanted to keep in mind was the scale of everything. I am a complete nerd. I'm not gonna hide it. You can tell. I know you can tell. Look at me. You can tell. And I'm adamant about this. I'm a goddamn purist. Wolverine is 5'3". Wolverine is properly proportioned, finally. And this is something that has bothered me for a long time. Fully bothered me, like I can't sleep at night. Because while Hugh Jackman is a huge jacked man, he's not the appropriate height. I think Wolverine's like 5'5". Hold up. Wolverine height. He's 5'3". He's 5'3". And then I thought, okay, well, how big is Deadpool? Deadpool height 6'2". So obviously this is the correct proportioning, and actually no, it's kind of incorrect, because Deadpool looks absolutely massive in this, and if you looked a little harder, you'd see Deadpool's guns are in fact the length of Wolverine's quads. I don't think it's realistically accurate, but comic book accurate, we can go with that. So physique-wise, Wolverine is kind of bulky, but in most of the comic books, he's got this V taper, like this ridiculous V taper. I don't think I have him on my wall here, but I usually use Franco Columbo for his physique reference. I don't really have it, but it would look more or less like that guy. Small waist, big upper body, but the limbs are short and stocky because he is of humble stature. I ended up bulking up his midsection a little bit just because that's my preference. I don't know why. I think it makes the character look a bit stronger, more aggressive for some reason. I did that with The Dark Knight Returns as well. So after the physique was basically done and the arms were nice and ridiculous, I moved on to the claws, and this is where I really started letting the creative juices flow. I didn't want to make clay claws again. They suck. So I was looking at my aluminum wire and I thought, you know what? That's soft. I've dented it before. So I hammered it down into a flat sheet, and then it really started working. So I cut it into shape, and I actually ended up having something that looked really good. It looked like claws, and I just made 5 more, and I was happy with that. I thought, that's perfect. So much that I made Deadpool's katana out of it as well. So once that was done and he was baked, I had a kind of design idea for Wolverine's costume. I wanted the comic book costume. I wanted like the X-Men cartoon costume, just because that's my preference, and I know that we get a kind of comic book inspired suit in the movie. That's what the trailers imply, but it doesn't scratch the yellow spandex itch in my brain, so I have to do it myself. Sometimes you got to take matters into your own hands. So I just decided we're gonna go full comic book. We went bright yellow, originally a bright blue, but I darkened it later, and I wanted glossy, like it was some weird suction latex spandex stuff so tight around his skin that if he wasn't wearing blue underwear, you'd see details of you'd see the full shape and curvature. I usually use Sideshow Collectibles statues as reference for these things because, my God, like the detail on those things is ridiculous. Every part of it is just like they've thought about what material it's supposed to be and they've replicated it properly. It's just, I look at those things to like absorb the creative whatever's going on there. So the final step, the final painting step, for me is just like assessing if it looks to my liking, and most of it did. I think all of it does. I feel like now the suit is too clean, especially since you compare it to Deadpool later on, but we'll get to that. Like the skin of his arms and face is perfect. Like I have that down to a science now. I use Crusader skin speed paint from Army Painter for some reason that is unknown to me. When you put that on baked, unprimed Super Sculpey, it looks exactly like skin. I think it's because it keeps the clay semi-translucent and semi-reflective, which is essentially what skin is. It's perfect. I love that stuff. Now it's time for Deadpool. This is the point where I realized my original plan to have the like bathroom scene where he's got him through the chest just wasn't gonna work. Mostly because I wanted a massive Deadpool. I wanted Wolverine to feel small, and if that was gonna work, Wolverine would have to have his arms fully extended, because to the scale I had made it, if Wolverine put his claws through his chest, Deadpool would still be standing up, perfectly upright. So I just changed direction, and I thought, okay, maybe they're just facing off. So it's like they're crossing swords, but they're crossing katana and claws. So with Deadpool, I just made an armature that was huge, and then I started having fun with the pose. The pose was like a kind of katana samurai pose. I know I've seen it somewhere else, I can't think where. And then super muscular, because my favorite Deadpool is the one from the video game. I never played it, but when I was like 13, I watched a bunch of cutscenes of it, and I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. He looks like a bodybuilder in that video game, and that fits for me. It just adds to the ridiculousness. Like, this absolute insane person is jacked like a bodybuilder and armed to the teeth. Like, he shouldn't be able to stand up with how muscular and armed he is all the time. So to keep it at that ridiculous level, I had to add so much detail to the point that it was funny, and I did. A personal triumph for me was the fact that I made guns that didn't look dumb. So when I made the Uzi, I thought, that looks really good, and I had fun. So I made a pistol, and then another pistol, and then a knife, then another knife, then 3 grenades, and then 3 different types of grenades. And by the time you know it, I was running out of room to put all these guns and weapons. There was also going to be a little Hello Kitty backpack with a grenade launcher in it, but it just started looking ridiculous. So then it was time to paint him. Same kind of thing. I wanted poppy colors. That took a while to paint him just because he's so big. You know, you try to keep it realistic. I wanted the black parts of his suit to feel like a kind of leather. So it was semi-gloss by the time it was finished. The red was going to be some kind of fabric. The boots had gaiters on them, which is really cool. And that was going to be a leather, which was really useful. Again, when you paint that stuff using speed paint, sometimes they just have the perfect effect. I don't know how to explain it, but the hardened leather from Army Painter is perfect. So I wanted him dirty and grimy because he's not like a clean character in any sense. So I gave him a black wash with a little bit of brown mixed in and rubbed that off the surfaces, and it gave it that perfect grimy feel. He kind of feels a lot like how he does in the movies. I think the face, I actually wasn't after that, but I'm really pleased with how that turned out. And with that done, it was time to do the base. So I just had to find a way to put these two characters together. I couldn't go with the bathroom idea anymore. So I just decided we're going to go Snowy Mountain because Canada. And that meant epoxying the wood bases together after I had screwed them together. And then I covered the epoxy here and there with some rocks. I would love to tell you that I stepped outside, picked some rocks up, and put it on the base. I didn't do that. I'm such a sucker. You could get me to buy a bag of rocks for $4 if it was in the arts and crafts aisle. So once that was set, I painted everything in a flat gray, and then I dry brushed everything with a white, kind of cream white, a little bit of brown in there. Once that was dried, I could go over it with another black wash. Same idea, just rub it off the surfaces and you get this, like everything's tied together. It looks like stone. And then the final step of this nearly 2-month beauty was snow. This stuff is easy. It's really fun to make. I forget where I first saw this done. It was some mini hobbyist channel. But what you do is, so you mix glue, white paint, and baking soda. The ratios vary by your preference. Some people use water. I like it as a paste though, so I skip the water. But with that ready, you just apply it onto the base. So with the base freshly frosted, I stepped back and gazed in abject admiration at the beautiful masterwork I had just created. I really hope you like this video. Making these means a lot to me. Getting to make whatever I want, whenever I want, is a real privilege, and hopefully there are people out there who want to see that. I would like it if this video inspires anyone to create in a more playful manner, because while there are plenty of tutorials out there on how to specifically use a certain technique or make a certain thing, there's something about like art culture that's either you are a hobbyist and you make things for fun, or you're a complete psychotic obsessive artist who just would sell their soul for their craft. And I think the in between is having so much fun that you could do this forever, and that I've finally found that again. As I mentioned before, I have ruined art for myself, and this kind of video where I just make something that is ridiculously proportioned and didn't turn out the way I wanted, but I actually kind of like it, is beautiful. I know you weren't expecting this kind of deep, personal talk in a video on sculpting superheroes, but comic books are inherently exaggerated and silly. And if the person making art can't be exaggerated and silly, it's garbage. It just is. You have to be vulnerable in the sense that what you're making needs you to be vulnerable. And I'm happy you watched it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.